basketball. You continue to go, deep in your lineup. How is that for you being able to have that, considering you didn't have that last year?
Yeah, I mean, I think last year was hope anyway. Last year's an anomaly, right? It's not the rule. Obviously, circumstances dictated that that's the way we had to figure out a way to get through the season. But ideally, we want to be able to play with a lot of depth and allow our young guys, especially early on in the season, to try to find their way. We've been able to do that in several of the games so far. And, as that happens through these first couple months, they'll be more prepared, or at least feel more comfortable going into Big 12 play.
I know you're probably still working through it, but are you in your head kind of getting, a rotation that you're finding to get comfortable with that you may use in the future?
Um, I'd say no. I feel like I probably should be able to say yeah. The challenge is, Hitty goes down in game two and not knowing exactly what the long-term implications of that is. We think he'll be available Friday. Not sure if he'll play. But once you get him back, you got a whole different element, and what he brings to our team is different from what we have right now. Um, Obviously, Marcus' situation is still up in the air, how that plays out. So I'm not. If you'd asked me 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks into the season, you feel more comfortable, I would have probably hoped I would be able to say yeah, but I can't really commit to that right now.
But what are your thoughts about how the younger guys are
I
playing
like
together?
what they're doing. I think for the most part, they've approached preparation the right way. They're accepting of the fact that they're not going to be the alphas on this team, but that they all can have significant opportunities to help us win games. Chris and Avery in particular have really come in and changed our game, our approach defensively, just with their athleticism and quickness in the backcourt. Keelan's kind of like a instant offense type guy. Comes in looking to be very aggressive. Sometimes you got to tell him to tone it down some, let the game come to him a little bit more. And then Caleb provides us some depth when we have what we had at Charleston and on Sunday if York gets into foul trouble early. So just having guys who you feel comfortable that can go in and still maintain the level of play that you want is very, very significant for us.
You mentioned Chris, and he's a guy who I know after the games is in here practicing his shots. What do you think of the work ethic that he's put in so far?
Well, basketball is really important to him. The story of his family. It's been something he's been accustomed to his whole life, and whether he win or whether we win or not, or whether he plays well or not, the process is going to remain the same for him. He's going to believe that you come in and figure out a way to get better. You learn from the mistakes you made, you build on some of the positives, and you get ready for the next one. And credit to his dad, his aunt who played at a high level, and really his family for instilling that work ethic in him.
What was it like first recruiting him? Did you notice that in him right off?
Yeah, so I mean, I told you I recruited Chris for a long time before he even committed to Texas A&M. We didn't feel at the time we were in position to offer him. So when he committed, just kind of continued to watch him, had a good relationship, and followed his summer and fall's high school senior season. Then when obviously the opportunity opened up late, we did have availability, and he was somebody we really felt like we wanted to have in our program.
All the freshmen still have a long way to go, but in these first 4 games, how have you seen Chris's game change?
Obviously, he hadn't made shots yet, which is something that we believe he's going to be able to do. Again, just finding himself in the offense, figuring out when he's going to have shot opportunities. But beyond that, he's been able to really focus on learning our defensive system and buying into being a valuable commodity in terms of depth in the backcourt, a guy that we can trust on the floor late in the game. As you can see in the 2 close games that we've had at home, he's been the one freshman that's been out there with the older guys. It's a trust factor that he's going to make simple plays. He's going to be under control. He's not going to do anything to try to be a hero, but he's going to play within himself. So that's very confident right now.
Is that a maturity that you don't see from a lot of freshmen?
Yeah, I think it's also a byproduct of having been taught the game a certain way. One of the advantages that I've said this before, so Chris played with a young man named Tyrese Maxey, who's probably Kentucky's most productive freshman right now. I don't know if he's the best, but he's really good. So Chris has always kind of been able to find his way as a supplement option. Tyrese has always been more heralded, received more accolades. So he understood how to play a role on a team and still have success. But he's going to be a really good player for us. But part of the advantage he has now is he doesn't feel like he has to make all the plays because he's experienced that before.
I think he was struggling in practice like the other day, and Thomas just kept telling him, shoot or shoot. How beneficial is it for him to have a guy like Thomas that...
I mean, I don't even know if I can quantify how valuable it is. It's probably similar to what Thomas felt when Phil Forte was here his freshman year. And just understanding you're going to go through times where you may miss 4 or 5 shots in a row, and you put the work in and you believe in yourself. Ultimately, the work wins. That's what we always talk about. I remember vividly Thomas's eye was shooting 3 air balls to start the game at Texas last year and then making 7 threes to end the game. So that ultimate confidence that he's seen kind of play itself out in real games. He's trying to pass that along to Chris, and then hopefully that builds in his confidence as well.
You mentioned Keelan maybe being a little over-aggressive sometimes whenever he first gets in. His first shot at Charleston, that's a pretty classic freshman story, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, his first shot here, I mean, literally, I think the guy was literally pulling his jersey as he was going up to shoot it. He still was bound and determined to shoot it. So it's part of it. I mean, again, unlike Chris, right, he has been the guy that's been expected to make all the plays for his team from an offensive standpoint. So changing that mentality takes a little while. Understanding that, you know what, we got some guys who can get baskets, who can help get you easier shots. Take some time, and he's getting there.
What have you seen of Western Michigan so far?
They're really good. They play really fast. They score a lot of points, and they do something that we've struggled at so far, which is they get to the free throw line at a pretty high rate. We fouled at a pretty high rate, and so we got to kind of find a better balance in order to be able to keep the pace of the game where we want it, but we can't do it if they're shooting free throws every possession.
Is the youth the reason you fouled so much? Maybe you think a little bit.
I don't know. I don't know if I want to put that on our freshmen. I think
Right.
some of it has been our older guys, just kind of taking too many chances instead of being just solid in our schemes. York picked up a foul the first possession of the game the other day. Those are fouls we just can't afford right now, and so the freshmen take their cues from those guys. Mm-hmm. So I think it's our older guys showing them the right way to start the game and have a better approach. We'll help our young guys understand what it looks like when their opportunity comes.
Coach, 2 things that go hand in hand: post offense and getting to the free throw line. And obviously, you've got a lot of good 3-point shooters.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no lie about that, and you're going to rely on that a lot. But how do you see your post offense developing?
It's not where we need it to be. If we're being honest, it's not where we certainly hope it'll get before we get to conference play. But it's something we work on every day. We got to get Yor a little bit more confident in his balance in the post. And so we got to sometimes maybe force feed him and let him play through some mistakes a little bit more. Our 2 best post players are Lindy and Ice right now. Not because they're better there than on the perimeter. Most of the time they're bigger than the guys that are guarding them at their position. So you'll see us put those 2 guys in the post. And Ice has shot better at the free throw line this year so far. Lindy's an excellent free throw shooter. That'll help both of those, our post offense, but it'll also start to bring attention to those guys. And now opportunities on the perimeter for Lindy sometimes if it's Ice, or for Thomas and Chris and those guys that shoot threes will be a little bit more easy.
I know the physical development will help him, but how much can Caleb help in that area? Because he is a good, skilled offensive player. He just maybe doesn't have the strength yet
Sure.
to really.
Yeah, and maybe he's never Shaq, right? I mean, but he can learn how to position himself better. He gotta get stronger in his legs. That's where it's gonna come mostly. Just being able to hold his position and catch it in there, and then be able to make a good move. He feels very comfortable inside because he's always played there. But now guys are being really physical, pushing him off the block, and so he's having to use his quickness a little bit more than just his skill on the block as a scorer.
Over and under on what you want to see Cam as far as getting to, because he's a guy I would love to see at the line 6, 7, 8 times a game.
Yeah, with Cam, it's just literally a matter of making up his mind that no one's going to stop him from getting to the offensive glass. I think that's where most of his offense needs to start. We got to get him in some pick and pops because he is a good 3-point shooter. His percentage isn't great to start the season. We have confidence in that ability, but it still has to start inside. He's got to be a guy who makes up his mind that he's going to be a force in the paint. He's going to score over bigger guys because of his quickness at 15 feet in. And then because of that, now guys have to come out and guard him, and he can either go by him, or if they don't come out, he can, as a secondary option, rely on his 3-point shot.
Cam mentioned how he feels healthier now that you are able to sub more guys in and stuff. How have you seen that impact those 3 captains and Yor and Ice being able to have some more time to rest?
I can't really tell right now. I think it's more the byproduct of the whole season that you'll see that. Late in the year, last year, we were playing a lot of close games, and we couldn't quite get over the hump in the last 5 or 6 minutes. I remember the OU game here, we're up 20 in the first half, and we just literally couldn't score for like 6 minutes to end the game because we couldn't get clean looks. The game at Tech, we get to overtime, we couldn't quite make plays. The Kansas game here, those things stick in my mind as games that right there at the end, the last 3 or 4 minutes, it just didn't look like we had enough gas in the tank to finish. And hopefully now, as we get to that point in the season, this year, our depth will have helped us preserve some of that energy, and we'll be able to make those plays late in games in the Big 12 season.
You mentioned Ice and Yor getting on the block. How nice is it when they do get down there, though, that you have a couple guys that are terrific passers to maybe find guys on the perimeter as well?
Yeah, it's an incredible asset. Lindy is overall our best player, right? He can score it from anywhere. He's a great passer. He can guard multiple positions, but also Ice probably secondary in that regard because he can play inside against smaller guys. He can drive bigger guys on the perimeter. We put him in ball screens a lot, but those guys are both really unselfish. And that's what makes their teammates want to play hard for them, knowing that if they cut, if they screen for them, and if they're open, that they're going to have opportunities to score as well.
Have you and Lindy had any other conversations after the Yale game of kind of what that meant for the both of you?
No, I mean, we talked about it before. It was something obviously had a lot of planning to go into it and all that stuff. So I understood, I thought, going in, but to receive the blanket and have his dad tell me exactly what it meant, it still was a little overwhelming, and can't say enough about what that family's meant to me in my career and our opportunity to continue to grow and have great relationships with these guys.
This Western Michigan game is obviously just as important, but is it important for you to take a step before you guys have to head over to Brooklyn?
Yeah, I mean, it's important for us that we get better no matter what the day is. We have to have a great practice today. And then, we found a way to win on Sunday with a not so great shooting night. I still don't also feel like we necessarily approached the game the right way or prepared as well as we're capable of. And so I'm looking forward to seeing us approach this game a little bit better, have a better, more mature mentality. And then, whatever happens and the outcome of the game happens, as long as we play the game the right way, as long as I feel like we prepare for the next 2 days to get ready for a really good team, then I feel good about the results.
I kind of kidded you about what you were going to do with the blanket, and you said you're looking to frame it.
Yeah.
Don't you think you want to wrap up in it at least a couple of times for? I got to think a circle of life blanket represents good luck and all kinds of great things.
Yeah, it probably does. I'm just really sloppy. I had chili for lunch from leftovers last night. I spilled some on the carpet. My wife's gonna get on me about that tonight, I'm sure.
You don't want to spill anything on it.
I don't want to harm the blanket. All right, so I'm gonna put it in a nice frame. I may, go to it in my time of need to get some, feng shui or whatever you call that word later on in the year. But no, I'm certainly appreciative of it.
You guys have had a lot of success from the free throw line your first couple of years, but in a couple close games this year, you guys haven't shot as well from the free throw line. How frustrating is that, and how close do you feel your guys are to starting to see more of those?
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating when it's Lindy, right, that steps up there and misses them because, right, you expect maybe a freshman get up there in the moment and doesn't feel as confident. He looks around and people are counting on it to go in. But for him, for Yor, who's been in that situation multiple times for us, for Ice, it's been a couple times, that's where we got to be tougher and more mature because I believe it's about focus. I don't think it's about ability. I don't think it's that they can't shoot. It's just about focusing on going through their process, making sure their routine is clean, and stepping up there and knocking the shot down. And we've talked about that multiple times the last couple of days.
You mentioned you're kind of getting a silly foul at the beginning of the game. How's it? Like, how do you coach someone that's so aggressive, gets steals, blocks, and still sophomore to tone it down?
I mean, he's still not all the way, right, as mature. He started a lot of games, but they're also it takes time for big guys to figure out some of the early officiating, and not to make an excuse for him. Sometimes the game is officiated different from game to game. Sometimes they let him play pretty physically in there. What he's got to do is not take chances unnecessarily. He doesn't need to go over a guy's back when he's clearly in front of him for an offensive rebound. Let it go. Let's get back. Doesn't need to leave his feet on a guy who's 4 inches shorter than him to block a shot. Just stay in good position. So some of it's on him. Some of it I concede is adjusting to how the game is officiated. Nonetheless, he's got to be better. He's got to play better more consistently. because not only for him, he's setting a good example for Caleb Boone, for Hitty when they play in those positions to know what it looks like.
Speculation is Hitty's close too.
Yeah, touched on that earlier.
Yeah.
Not sure. I think he'll be available Friday. I'm not sure if he'll play. He practiced yesterday for the first time. He'll practice probably a little bit more today. Challenge is he's got a test at 5 o'clock. It's the whole academic thing's got going on. So we'll have to let him leave at some point, and then we'll see what he can do tomorrow before we make a decision on Friday's game.